My husband just walked away from our marriage like I meant nothing. No fight. No explanation. Just one cold sentence. I'm done, Evelyn. And the sound of the door closing behind him. I stood frozen in the parking lot outside the courthouse, holding divorce papers I didn't ask for, staring at the man I had shared 10 years with as he walked to his car without looking back. My hands shook so violently I almost dropped the folder. That's when it happened. A trembling hand grabbed my wrist from the side. I flinched, turning to see an old woman, wrapped in a faded shawl, her eyes wide and frantic. She looked like she had run miles to reach me. Her breath came in short, painful gasps. Before I could speak, she shoved a wad of folded bills into my palm. "Take this," she whispered, her voice trembling like she was fighting cold or fear, maybe both. "Save yourself before he does to you what he did to me." My throat closed. I stared at her, stunned. "How do you—" She squeezed my wrist with surprising strength. "Before I tell you what happened, tell me in the comments where you're watching from, and if you believe in karma, hit like and subscribe, because this story will prove it." Then her face softened with something I didn't understand. Maybe pity. Maybe horror. "You don't have much time," she whispered. I swallowed hard. "Who are you?" She blinked slowly, tears gathering in her old eyes. "I'm the woman your husband destroyed before he ever met you." The world tilted. I stared at her, my mind racing. "What? My husband, Mark, he's never—" She shook her head so sharply I stopped talking. "Mark changed his name," she whispered. "That's not who he really is." A chill ran down my spine. "That's not possible," I said. "I know everything about him." Her lips parted in a sad, painful smile. That's what I thought too. My heartbeat slammed against my ribs. She looked around nervously, like she feared someone was watching us. "Not here," she said. "Come with me, please." Everything inside me screamed to run in the opposite direction. But curiosity, fear, something deeper, pulled me forward. "Tell me first," I whispered. "What did he do to you?" Her eyes closed, and a tear fell. "He ruined my life," she whispered, "the way he's about to ruin yours." Before I could respond, a black SUV rolled slowly past the sidewalk. The woman stiffened, every bone in her body going rigid. "No," she whispered. "He has people watching you already?" "People?" I repeated. "What are you talking about?" Her voice dropped. "You think he just walked away from you?" "No, my dear." She leaned close. "He walked away because he's hiding something big, something dangerous." I felt my breath catch. "What is he hiding?" I whispered. But instead of answering, she suddenly stepped back, fear flashing across her face. "Go home," she said quickly. "Pack a bag. Only your essentials. Leave before sunset." "What? Why sunset?" "Because by then," she whispered, "he will have made his move." I stood frozen, my fingers wrapped tightly around the money she'd shoved into my hand. She turned to leave, stumbling like her legs were barely working, but I grabbed her arm. "Wait! At least tell me your name." She hesitated. Then she took a slow breath and whispered, "My name is Margaret." I blinked. A familiar name tugged at a buried memory. Something Mark had mentioned once, in passing, in the early days of our marriage. "Margaret?" I whispered. "He said that name before. He said she was—" "Dead?" she finished for me. Her laugh was hollow. "I'm very much alive." My heart dropped. She stepped closer and cupped my cheek with a trembling hand. "I survived him once," she whispered. "But you look like I did when I still believed his lies." My breath shook. "What lies?" I whispered. She looked at me with such heartbreaking pity I felt my stomach twist. "You don't know him," she whispered. "Not really. You only know the version he wants you to see." I tried to steady my voice. "Tell me what he did." She looked toward the SUV again. "I will," she whispered. "But not here. Not while his people are watching." "You're paranoid," I whispered, but the unease in my chest told me I didn't fully believe my own words. She reached into her coat pocket for something, a small, folded paper, but before she could hand it to me, her eyes widened. A man stepped out of the SUV. Tall, expressionless, wearing all black. He wasn't looking at me. He was looking at her. "Margaret," he called calmly. "You need to come with me." Her hand tightened around mine. "Run," she whispered. "What?" "Run," she urged, shoving me backward. The man started walking toward us, deliberate, slow, not rushing, like he knew we weren't going anywhere. "What is this?" I cried. "Who is he?" She leaned close to my ear. "He works for your husband." My blood turned to ice. "What? Why would my husband send someone?" "Because he doesn't want you knowing the truth," Margaret whispered. "Not yet." The man got closer. I stepped back, fear burning in my legs. Margaret turned, facing him head-on, her trembling gone, replaced by something like defiance. "You don't get to control her too," she snapped at him. "Not again." The man didn't flinch. "Margaret," he said, "he wants you to come home." "Home?" she spat. "I don't have a home anymore. He took that from me." She shoved the folded paper into my hand quickly. "Don't lose this," she whispered. "It's everything." Before I could open it, the man grabbed her wrist. "Let go of me," she cried. My heart hammered. "Stop. Don't touch her." He looked at me with cold indifference. "Mrs. Carter," he said quietly, "your husband asked me to escort her." My breath caught. Mrs. Carter. That was my married name. The name I wasn't sure I even wanted anymore. "She's not going anywhere with you," I said. "Yes," he replied calmly. "She is. And so are you." I stumbled back. "No." His eyes darkened. "Your husband wants to speak with you." My voice barely escaped. He walked away from me. The man shook his head. "He didn't walk away," he said. He walked ahead. I froze. "What does that mean?" He stepped forward. "It means," he said quietly, "he's waiting for you." A shiver crawled up my spine. Margaret's voice trembled. "Don't go with him, Evelyn. Don't you dare." I clutched the folded paper in my fist. The man reached out his hand, calm, almost polite. "Please come with me." I backed away, my pulse thundering in my ears. "No," I whispered. "I'm not going anywhere until I know the truth." He exhaled slowly, disappointment flickering across his face. "Very well," he said. Then he reached into his coat. Margaret screamed, and everything in me shattered. Margaret screamed so loudly it cut through the air like a blade. I stumbled back, expecting the man to pull out a weapon, but instead he removed a phone. A simple black phone. He raised it calmly, showing me the screen. My heart nearly stopped. "Mark. Live video call." My husband, the man who had walked away from me an hour ago, was on the screen. Except he didn't look like he did earlier. His suit jacket was gone. His sleeves rolled up. And his expression? Cold, sharp, calculating. "Hello, Evelyn," he said calmly. My throat constricted. "Mark, what is this? Why did you send someone after me? Why is he grabbing her? What did she mean?" He raised a hand, silencing me effortlessly. "Margaret," he said through the phone, "you shouldn't have approached her." Margaret shook violently, wrenching her arm away from the man's grip. "She deserves to know," she yelled. "You can't hide forever." Mark's voice deepened. "I warned you last time," he said, "but you never learn, do you?" I froze. "Last time? What last time?" Margaret's eyes filled with panic. "Evelyn, don't listen to him. He ruined me. He ruined my family. He—" "Enough," Mark snapped. My body tensed. This wasn't the man I married. This voice, this tone, felt like someone else entirely. He leaned closer to the camera. "Evelyn," he said coolly, "step into the car." "No," I whispered. "Why are you treating her like this? What happened between you two? Who is she?" He sighed slowly, like I was being dramatic for asking. "Margaret," he said, "tell her the truth. If you're so eager to ruin her life too, go ahead." Margaret's lips trembled. "I'm not ruining her life," she whispered. "I'm trying to save it." "Save her from what?" Mark snapped. Margaret looked right at me. "From you." My stomach dropped. Mark rolled his eyes. "There she goes again. The martyr. The victim. Evelyn, she's unstable. Her son died. She blamed me. She's been harassing my company ever since." My eyes widened. "Her son died?" Margaret's face contorted with pain. "Don't you dare speak his name," she hissed. Mark continued talking like she wasn't even there. "She needs help. She has for years. She sees shadows where there aren't any. She invents villains because she can't accept reality." My head spun. Margaret sobbed. "I'm not crazy." "Evelyn," Mark said softly, "I know this is overwhelming, but I'm not the man she says I am. She's confused. She thinks everyone who leaves her is part of some conspiracy." "I didn't leave you," Margaret cried. "You destroyed everything." Mark ignored her. "Sweetheart," he said to me, voice suddenly gentle, tender, almost rehearsed. "Please, just get in the car. Let me explain everything calmly without this chaos." I stared at the phone. At the man I thought I knew. The man I slept next to for a decade. The man who suddenly felt like a stranger. My voice trembled. "Mark, did you know her?" A pause. Too long. His jaw tightened. "Yes," he said finally. "I knew her." Margaret let out a shaking breath. "Tell her the rest." Mark's nostrils flared. "She was a patient at the clinic I managed," he said, "years ago. She had severe mental health struggles." Margaret gasped. "That's a lie." Mark continued calmly. "She became obsessed with me, followed me, threatened my staff. We had to file a restraining order." Margaret's voice cracked completely. "No, no, please, Evelyn, listen to me." Mark's voice turned firm. "Take the money she gave you and throw it in the trash. She does this to every woman she sees me speak to." Margaret collapsed to her knees. "Stop lying," she whispered. "Stop hiding." I stared at her, shaking, crying, broken, and then at the man on the phone, composed, controlled, confident. One of them was lying, and the truth was buried somewhere between their pain. Mark exhaled sharply. "Evelyn," he said, voice low, "if you don't get into the car right now, you are making a very serious mistake." The man holding the phone stepped closer. Too close. I backed up. "No," I whispered. "I'm not going anywhere." Mark's voice lost its patience. "Evelyn, get in the car." Something inside me snapped. "No," I said louder, "not until I know the truth." Mark's expression darkened, dangerously. "Fine," he said. "Open the paper she gave you." My hand shook. I'd forgotten the folded note Margaret shoved into my palm before the man grabbed her. I unfolded it slowly. 3 lines. My breath stopped. He changed his name after the investigation. Search. Carter Pharmaceutical Trial. The victims were never compensated. My vision blurred. "Mark," I whispered, "what investigation?" His face went stone cold. "Evelyn." Margaret stood suddenly, grabbing my wrist. "Run." The man lunged forward. Mark shouted through the phone. "Stop her." I ripped my wrist away and bolted. Margaret shoved herself between me and the man, screaming, "Go!" I sprinted toward the busy street, my heart exploding, cars blurring past, tears burning my face. Behind me I heard shouts, running footsteps, Margaret screaming my name, and Mark's voice muffled through the phone, still in the man's hand. "Evelyn, don't do this." But I didn't stop. Not until I turned the corner. Not until I ducked behind a dumpster behind a bakery. Not until I could breathe again. I pulled out my phone with shaking fingers, typed the words from the paper into the search bar. Carter Pharmaceutical Trial. My husband's last name. My married name. The search results loaded, and the first headline made my blood run cold. 3 patients dead. Negligence case dismissed after lead defendant disappears. Lead defendant disappears. I scrolled, and then I saw a photo. A grainy picture of a man, younger, different hairstyle, different name. But the face was unmistakable. It was Mark, my husband. Except the name under the photo wasn't Mark Carter. It was Daniel Hawthorne. My breath fractured. The same name Margaret had whispered to me through tears. My husband hadn't just walked away from me today. He had walked away from his past, from crimes, from victims, from a life he buried. And now, he wanted me buried with it. My husband wasn't Mark Carter. He wasn't the man whose name was on our marriage license, whose family stories I memorized, whose past seemed so painfully ordinary. He was Daniel Hawthorne, a man connected to 3 deaths, a collapsed pharmaceutical trial, a vanished investigation, and a woman who was now risking her life to warn me. My knees nearly buckled as I stared at the screen. Then I read the next headline. Whistleblower disappears before court hearing. My breath hitched painfully. Whistleblower disappears before court. The article thumbnail had a small, blurred image, a woman standing outside a clinic. A woman who, even in low resolution, looked familiar. Looked like Margaret. My stomach twisted into a cold knot. I scrolled further until I found another headline. Case dismissed after key witness fails to appear. Then another. Lead suspect believed to have fled state under new identity. I felt sick. My husband didn't walk away from me because he was done. He didn't walk away because the marriage was over. He walked away because someone found him. Someone like Margaret. Someone who remembered Daniel Hawthorne. Footsteps echoed sharply behind the alley. I froze. A voice called out, not shouting, but firm, controlled. Evelyn. My blood stopped cold. I turned slowly. It wasn't Mark. It wasn't the man in black. It was another man, dressed in a dark blazer, walking toward me with hands raised like he didn't want to scare me. Don't run, he said calmly. I'm not with him. I backed up instantly. Stay away. I'm not here to hurt you. Who are you? My voice wavered. He reached into his pocket slowly and held up an ID badge. A faded badge from a courthouse. Detective Harris, he said. Retired. Retired. My chest tightened. What do you want? I whispered. He stopped several feet away. To help you. I shook my head. No, I've heard that before. That's what everyone says before they hurt you. He didn't move. I was the original investigator on the Hawthorne trial. I felt my breath explode from my lungs. He continued softly. And I've been looking for Daniel ever since the case was buried. I swallowed. Why now? I whispered. Why today? Because he resurfaced, Harris said, quietly, carefully, using a new identity, a new life. He paused. A new wife. My throat tightened. You, he said gently. My hands trembled around my phone. Margaret told me something, I whispered. She said he ruined her life. Harris nodded slowly. He did. What did he do to her? He exhaled, a long, heavy breath. Margaret was the whistleblower. My breath caught. The one who disappeared? I whispered. He nodded. She didn't disappear willingly. She was harassed, intimidated, followed. Daniel's legal team made her life unlivable, and when the pressure got too dangerous, she ran. I pressed my back against the cold brick wall. And her son? I whispered. What happened to him? Harris hesitated. He was one of the patients in the trial. I felt the blood drain from my face. He continued. She wasn't unstable. She wasn't delusional. She wasn't violent. She was grieving. My knees shook. Your husband, Harris said quietly, was the head of the clinical trial. He covered adverse reactions. He falsified documentation. And when things went wrong, he blamed others. And the people died, I whispered. Harris nodded once. 3 patients. One of them was an 8-year-old boy. A wave of nausea hit me. And when Margaret tried to speak out, he said, he found ways to silence her. I pressed a hand over my mouth to keep from crying. Harris stepped slightly closer, but not enough to corner me. He approached you because you were innocent, he said. Clean history, no connections to the case, no reason to question him. I squeezed my eyes shut. He used me, I whispered. Harris nodded gently. He needed a new identity that wouldn't be questioned. Marriage helps that. I looked up sharply. Then why walk away today? Why leave me at the courthouse? Harris's jaw tightened. Because the investigation reopened last week. My heart stopped. Someone leaked new evidence, he said. Something big. Something that reopened everything. I whispered, Margaret. Harris nodded. She came to us. She came back after years of hiding because she finally found the courage to talk and to warn you. My breath shook. Your husband knows the case is back on, he said, and he knows his only weakness is anyone who knows who he really is. My stomach twisted into a painful knot. So he's trying to control the damage, I whispered. He's trying to control you, Harris corrected. Your silence, your story. I leaned against the wall, my whole body weak. What? What does he want from me? Harris's eyes softened. He wants to know how much you know. He wants to know what Margaret told you. He wants to keep you close. Or, take me out of the equation, I whispered. Harris didn't deny it. My hands shook violently. What do I do? I whispered. Harris's voice hardened with urgency. You need to leave, right now, before he finds you, before he reaches you. I swallowed hard. Where do I go? He held out a business card. Somewhere safe, he said. Somewhere he can't control. I took the card with trembling fingers. Then Harris said something that froze me solid. You were never supposed to know his real name. And now that you do, you're in danger too. I stared at him, breathless. What if he finds me? I whispered. Harris's answer was soft, chilling, honest. He will. I closed my eyes. And when he does, he finished. You cannot be alone. By the time I reached my street, Detective Harris's warning echoed through my skull. He will find you. I pulled my jacket tighter around myself as I walked toward the house. Mark? No, Daniel. And I had lived in for years. The porch light was off. The driveway was empty. The silence felt heavier than usual, like the house was holding its breath. I hesitated near the mailbox. A part of me wanted to run. A part of me wanted to never step inside again. But Harris said I needed to pack fast. Cash. Documents. Anything Mark could use to track or trap me. I stepped onto the porch. Unlocked the door. The moment it opened, I knew something was wrong. Not because of a sound. Not because of a shadow. But because of the smell. A faint scent of Mark's cologne, the expensive one he only wore for important meetings. The one he'd been wearing this morning at the courthouse. My breath caught. He had been here. Maybe he was still here. I shut the door quietly behind me and forced my shaking legs forward. If he was inside, I'd know soon enough. The house looked normal. Too normal. The keys on the hook. The shoes neatly placed. The framed photos still hanging, laughing faces that meant nothing now. I walked into the kitchen first. Everything was exactly where I left it, except one thing. On the counter sat a mug. Still warm. My heart stopped. Someone had been here minutes ago. I stepped backward, pulse pounding in my throat. Then I heard it. A soft creak from upstairs. Slow. Deliberate. Like someone shifting their weight on the floorboards. My breath hitched. I pulled out my phone and whispered to myself, "He's here." But I couldn't run. Not yet. Not until I grabbed the documents Harris told me to take. My passport. Birth certificate. Social security card. The file I kept locked in my nightstand, the one full of financial records he didn't know I saved. Everything I might need to disappear. I forced myself toward the stairs, even as every instinct screamed for me to turn around and flee. Halfway up, I paused. Another creak. This one closer. I swallowed hard and took the remaining steps, each one feeling louder than the last. The hallway was dim. Our bedroom door was open an inch. Just an inch. I hadn't left it that way when I rushed out earlier. My fingers trembled as I pushed it open. The room looked untouched, bed neatly made, dresser drawers closed, curtains still tied back, except for the nightstand drawer. It was open. Someone had gone through it. My throat tightened painfully. He was searching. Searching for what? Me? Something else? I stepped inside, trying to keep my breathing quiet. My passport was still there, my documents untouched. But the folder I kept hidden behind the drawer, was missing. I froze. That folder held everything I never wanted Mark to see: bank statements, private savings, copies of insurance policies, a small stash of emergency cash. He had taken it. I turned slowly, fear flooding my chest. What if he wasn't hiding upstairs, but waiting downstairs? I backed toward the bed, one step, then another, until something crunched beneath my shoe. I looked down. A piece of paper? Folded. Planted there deliberately. My hands shook as I picked it up. 3 words were scrawled across the front in handwriting I knew too well. "Nice try, Evelyn." My stomach dropped. He had known. He had known I'd try to run. He had known Margaret reached me. He had known Harris found me. I unfolded the paper. Inside was a single sentence. "You won't get far without your real ID." My heart punched my ribs. Real ID? Then I realized the passport and documents in the drawer weren't the originals. They were duplicates. He had swapped them. He had planned ahead of my escape. He knew me better than I feared. "He's one step ahead," Harris had warned. Now I understood how right he was. I stumbled back, breathing hard. A soft vibration buzzed in my hand. My phone. A text. Blocked number. But I knew who it was. "Come downstairs." I nearly dropped the phone. He was here. He had been here the whole time. He wasn't hiding upstairs. He was letting me find the note. Letting me panic. Letting me understand how deep his control went. Another text came. "We need to talk." I backed up until I hit the dresser. No. 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 I wasn't doing this. I wasn't letting him trap me. I looked toward the window, 2nd floor, but I could jump into the bushes if I timed it right. My phone buzzed again. I wouldn't try the window. My blood turned to ice. He knew. He was watching me. Right now. I looked around wildly. Camera? Phone tapping? Hidden angle? Where was he? Then the last text appeared on the screen. "Turn around." My breath caught. I turned. Slowly. Terrified. And there, in the reflection of the mirror across the room, I saw him, standing behind me in the doorway. Silent. Still. Watching me with the same expression he wore at the courthouse. Except now he wasn't pretending. Now the mask was gone. And the man who used to be my husband looked at me like I was a problem he wasn't sure how to solve without breaking. "Hello, Evelyn," he said softly. I couldn't breathe. "I told you," he whispered. "You shouldn't have talked to her." Daniel took one slow step into the room, and the air around me tightened like a fist. Not loud, not angry, just controlled. The kind of quiet that was more dangerous than any shouting. "You shouldn't have talked to Margaret," he said again, eyes locked on mine through the mirror. My voice trembled. "Is any of it true? The trial? The deaths? The name you hid? Who are you really?" He exhaled like I had asked something childish. "I'm the man who kept you safe for 10 years, he said softly. "The man who loved you enough to rebuild his entire life. The man who didn't want you dragged into a nightmare that should have stayed buried." "Buried?" I whispered. "You mean the people who died? The woman whose son—" His jaw tightened. For the first time, I saw something real in his eyes. Guilt. Fear. Or maybe the memory of the life he ran from. "You weren't supposed to know," he said. "You weren't supposed to get involved." "And Margaret?" I asked. "Why is she terrified of you?" I ruined her, he admitted quietly. Not intentionally, not the way she thinks. But I did ruin her, and she wants me to suffer. I stared at him in the mirror, heart pounding. What do you want from me now? I whispered. His expression softened in a way that made me shiver. A clean exit, he said. Sign the papers, tell the police nothing, and you walk away untouched. And if I don't? His silence was all the answer I needed. But then something shifted. A sound downstairs. A door. Footsteps, fast. Daniel snapped his head toward the hallway. I turned, too. Detective Harris's voice thundered up the staircase. Evelyn! Step away from him! Daniel's face changed instantly. Cold, cornered, dangerous. He backed toward the window, eyes on the doorway, weighing his escape. Evelyn, he whispered, you were the only part of my life that felt real. And in one swift movement, he slipped out the window and vanished into the night. By the time Harris reached me, Daniel was gone. But the truth wasn't, and neither was I. I walked out of that house shaking, shattered, but alive, and for the first time since Margaret grabbed my wrist, I finally saved myself.